Alright, y'all, good morning. It's your boy Romance coming through with another episode of, and today is, I promise, the last episode of the Trojan War. My ratings have been slipping. None of you have been watching. I went from having like 80 to 120 views every show to like 30. So I must be boring the crap out of you with this stuff. But I'm telling you, I just know and love so much of that. I know this subject, and I found a good series on it, and I found a lot of information on it, so this is the last one, okay? Yesterday, I brought you the story of Heinrich Schliemann. This light is busting my ass right now. Can't escape it. Can't escape the light. Alright, Heinrich Schliemann, I told you his story. He was the first archaeologist, and he was a putz. He totally screwed up the whole archaeological dig there. He did everything wrong. And he was a liar and a scoundrel, so we're done talking about him, but we're going to pick up where he left off today, okay? Now, one of the guys on his archaeological team was named, and all these names are going to be German. One of them is actually American, but he's a German-American with a very German name. Wilhelm Dorpfeld is a German who actually was on the team of Schliemann, and he was an architect. So he picked up in 1892. Schliemann died, and that was the end of him as an archaeologist. But Wilhelm Dorpfeld picked up where he left off. He thought he could do what Schliemann couldn't do, and in a lot of ways he was right, because he was an archaeologist and Schliemann wasn't. Or he was a architect, and Schliemann wasn't. So archaeology was in its infancy, and still most archaeologists didn't have, it wasn't a full science like it is today. But it became that way under Wilhelm Dorpfeld. The main thing that you got to realize with all that I'm going to be talking about today, like I said yesterday, Schliemann found that, he went into the mound of Hissarlik. A mound of Hissarlik is the city of Troy, okay, or what's left of it. And it's not just one city, it is 12 cities repetitively on top of another. Like, one city grew for a couple hundred years, flourished, fell apart, and then went down and turned shitty for a while, and everybody left, and then it grew again and got big again, and successively, so on. It's like 12 times that happened. Now, Schliemann dug to the bottom of it, okay? He all the treasure he found, everything that he got to was the second city, and that city was not the Troy of legend, of Homer's Troy. It was too old. It was probably somewhere around like something like 3000 BC. Like, they were just, he did find gold, Schliemann did, and he did find a little bit of bronze, but like they were just at the beginning of the Bronze Age, in the place where Schliemann was looking. So a couple layers up, a couple cities up, this Wilhelm Dorpfeld deduced that it was the sixth city, and not just the sixth city wasn't just one city. He had like 8 different stratas of pottery and shards and shit that was there, different layers of time periods, and it was like 6G or 6H or something like that he narrowed it down. That like, when there was a city that was really big, that had big houses, that had everything that like Troy would have had. It had like the pottery was right. I mean, pottery is the name of the game in figuring out how old stuff is. Like this, like deducing, like, again, pottery is constantly changing in the ancient world. So when you find similar pottery at the same strata, like, you can kind of tell it's the same age. And the city that Dorpfeld thought it was ended, I guess, it ended in some sort of catastrophe. But the thing was, it didn't seem like it was like fire and war. It seemed like it was an earthquake. Like walls were all like wobbly instead of straight, and stuff like looked like it fell down. Like all he could deduce was that it was the city ended there. It was a big city. It just fit the description of Troy. And again, all he did was the citadel. There was basically the castle that was in the city. He didn't go, he was like Schliemann was like doing this archaeological dig, like, this is it? This is all there was to Troy? This can't be right. It's got to be bigger than this. Well, Dörpfeld dies, I think, in the early 1900s, like maybe like 1910. And Troy is abandoned as an archaeological dig for like a decade or two. And then in the 1920s and 1930s, an American from the University of Cincinnati named Carl Blegen, also he's a German American, takes over takes a whack at this dig, all right, and he would like there's where Schliemann was a liar and you can't believe half the shit he's saying, and Dörpfeld was kind of on point, you know, he was academic. Carl Blegen was just the opposite. He was trustworthy. He was on point with everything. He was a good dude, and he did a lot of great archaeology. Okay, he kind of opened up the field there. He thought that it wasn't city number 6, level 6 of the city of Troy that was Homer's Troy. He thought it was number 7 because that one was also big, all right, although it looks like it got poorer. Like it looks like the population like doubled or something in the time of Troy number 7. And that one ended in fire and arrows, and he found like evidence of like people laying in the middle of the street and stuff like that. Like this one looked like destruction. So he argued that it wasn't Troy number 6, it was Troy number 7. He could never prove it, but one great thing he did. Now, one thing that goes into archaeology is it's not just science, it's not just knowing your shit academically. There is an amount of luck that goes into this field. You have to be lucky to be a successful archaeologist. Well, Schliemann was probably the luckiest archaeologist ever. He got lucky in mad times, and this is why his name goes down in history. Carl Blegen might be number 2 on the lucky list, okay? Because he excavated Troy, he did his shit there. Then he said, you know what, I'm going to be like Schliemann, and I'm going to go to Greece, and I'm going to do some excavations on the other side of this war. You know, I'm not just going to excavate Troy, I'm going to see what the Mycenaeans had to do. But he didn't, where Schliemann he excavated Mycenae, all right, Carl Blegen excavated a city called Pylos, all right, and Pylos is the city where, hi Sadie, Pylos is the city where I believe Nestor was from. Come on, out of here. Come on. Beat it.
Come on. You got some.
Yeah, my headphones. Let go. Come on, scram.
Sadie.
All right, sorry about that. Pylos was the city where I don't know, I forget which hero. I think it is Nestor was from Pylos. But anyway, it was a real, he went there. All right, check this out. He goes there, okay? And when you go to an archaeological dig, the first thing you do is ask the locals, where the hell is this place? They pointed him right to it. On day 1, on the morning of day 1, he sinks his shovel into the ground, and in like 2 hours, he finds what all archaeologists are looking for. Again, archaeologists, like, gold is great, treasure is great, wonderful, yippee skippy, all right? What archaeologists are really looking for is information. And in this type of scenario, what you're looking for is the palace records, like the logs of everything, the bookkeepers, like little catch of shit. If you can find that, you know, all your records of economics, all your records of trading, of bookkeeping, that is what archaeologists want. He found the palace of Pylos, all their records in 2 hours of digging. Like, nothing ever happened like that before in archaeology or since. And not only that, they were in Linear B, because the Mycenaeans wrote in a version of Greek that we now call Linear B. Linear A was spoken by the Minoans, which is an earlier form of Greek civilization. Linear B is the Mycenaeans were later. They were kind of the middle age of Greek ancient history, and they spoke Linear B, and Carl Blagan could decipher it. It was deciphered already, so we knew what these guys were saying, and it was beautiful. So a lot of information came out of that dig, and you know, completely. Carl Blagan aces as an archaeologist, and so he died, I think, in like the 1940s, right around World War II. And then again, Troy was abandoned as an archaeological dig for a couple more decades. All right, up until the mid 90s. Okay, our time, a time while we've been alive. From there, another German, the guy named Manfred Korfmann. Now he took over in I think it was like 92. He started the dig, and he died in 2005. But his people are still in Troy. His dig is still going on, and his legacy continues. Now, what's important about Korfmann is Korfmann also thought it was city number 7, but he also, like, again, Blagan was he was in the citadel of Troy. Manfred Korfmann's most famous for finding the rest of the city. He found this big, huge ditch that went all the way around, and like it was this vast area. And he's like, "Wait a minute, holy shit, this is the city of Troy." Like he found the lower city where like the regular people lived and stuff like that. He found this big, humongous. He thought it was a wall. He used magnetic resonance, and again, look, archaeologists. By the time you get to Manfred Korfmann, almost everything, like today, there's not much left of the hill of Hisarlik. Schliemann fucked it up from day one, and then, you had 2 and 3 other major digs going on there in modern times, so there wasn't a whole lot. Archaeology works as such that when you're on an archaeological dig, archaeologists they don't excavate the entire scene. They only do like 10 to 20% of the scene, so that you have room for the future, for people in the future because we know that there's going to be better technology. We know there's going to be more people coming in the future to dig here. So archaeologists let it rock, and they only do a little bit of the. But by now, by the time Manfred Korfmann got there, the whole there's almost nothing left on the citadel to dig anymore. But he came to the conclusion that Troy, it was his thesis that Troy was a massive city. It was an economic center. It was it was really a New York City type of city. There was culture. There was everything that and more that the ancients talked about, that Homer talked about. He also came to the conclusion that it might have been an earthquake that ended the city. And it may have been, instead of the Trojan horse, Poseidon is also, I mentioned yesterday, he's the god of horses. He's the god of earthquakes. So maybe this was a literary allusion to Poseidon that Homer used instead of, we just simply don't know, and we don't have the answers. But it was Manfred Korfmann, he came up with a lot of the money that we were looking for. He found, Mycenaean arrowheads in the walls. Okay, proof that he found vast amounts of trade goods, not only from Greece but from Syria, from Cyprus, from Egypt, from Iran, from Russia. There was shit everywhere. So there was proof that Troy was a mega power. Okay, now he before he died in the early 2000s at a university in Germany, there was a guy named Frank Kolb who was he was against, he didn't like the idea that Korfmann was putting out, that Troy was this great city. He said that Frank Kolb said that Troy was a backwater. It was just a little insignificant, shitty little town on the edge of two great empires, Mycenae and the Hittites. Well, they went at it, and they had an academic showdown. Sometimes this happens in the world of academia when two people got beef. They have a lecture, or they have like they square off on each other intellectually. That happened in a university. I forget which, Stuttgart. I forget what fucking university it was in Germany. But Manfred Korfmann and Frank Kolb not only got into it, but like they ended up getting into a fist fight. Shit got wild, man. Like Manfred Korfmann don't play, and the fight was kind of even, but the rest of academia kind of ended up siding with Manfred Korfmann. Okay. And again, his people are still on the dig to this day. To this day, there's really, there's two pieces of money that we're looking for when we're talking about Troy. All right, the number one piece of money is figuring out which level it is and when it happened and how it happened. But the number two piece of money is that now we have writing from the Hittites, tons of writing. We have writing from the Mycenaeans. We have writing from all over the world at that time. There is no writing whatsoever. There's no palace records. We can't find anything at Troy. There's nothing, no writing at all. We don't know what language they used. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that, why is there no writing? They had to have had writing. A city that big, they had to keep records. They had to keep economic. Somebody had to write something to have a city that big. All right, the reason they're not there is because asswipe Schliemann dug it up and threw it into the garbage. Fortunately for the future, and this is what is happening. This is going to happen in the future. It's not happening right now, but Schliemann has the mounds, like the garbage is just in a whole bunch of piles right next to where he dug. So we can go through that. It hasn't been done yet, but that is going to happen in the future. So in the end, the story of Troy by Homer, it is one of the most important stories in history. I want you to know it. Again, my ratings slipped this week, but this is my last show on this series, and the next thing we're going to be doing is the Celts. I want you to have a great day, have a good week. Let's kick ass here today, man. My name is Richie Romance. I'm live in France land. Have a good one. Peace.